Ferrari rule again in the land of the rising sun for the 5th year in succession. They are top of the podium. Victory number 83 for the amazing Michael Schumacher. David Coulthard comes next. He's on 13 victories in current driver speak. That is Tony Jardine, the writing on the wall really from the start of this Japanese Grand Prix as far as Michael Schumacher was concerned.
Yeah, he was determined to lay that ghost to rest, wasn't he, from China and the tail end of the season. You know, once he'd been beaten by Raikkonen in Belgium, that was it. He'd had some pretty poor results, and we thought, here we go, end of season blues again. This time last year here, he struggled home 8th. If you remember, he hit Takuma Sato and had to come in for a nose cone. He had a shocking race. We thought, well, maybe he's done it all. He's wrapped up the championship and he's just cruising round, but not so here today. He really put it to rights.
Poor Mark Webber went backwards and Michael Schumacher just stormed away from the grid.
Yeah, it was a perfect start by Michael Schumacher, and Ralf Schumacher got away very cleanly as well, and then poor old Mark Webber got swamped away from the grid. But where were the fast-starting Renaults? I was thinking they might jump a few there. They didn't really make an impact. It was Button who got past Sato and went round the outside, and that surprised Sato a bit. And of course this was to pan out later on in the strategy between them, between 2 stops for Jensen and 3 stops for Takuma Sato.
Sure, there was great stuff going on behind Michael Schumacher, wasn't there? Sadly we didn't manage to see all of it, but Rubens Barrichello was very much involved, wasn't he?
Rubens was coming through for, like we said, watch from him coming from 15th place. Early on you'd seen him tackling Villeneuve and Juan Pablo Montoya. This time Juan Pablo Montoya was having a go at Trulli, trying to get that 7th place. He ran wide, Trulli carried on, but Barrichello jumped them. Fisichella got through, and then after that Rubens Barrichello at the end of the straight into turn 1 had a fantastic overtaking manoeuvre on Jarno Trulli. And that's the sort of overtaking that Suzuka can produce. And we've had a very, very entertaining Japanese Grand Prix.
Right, this was all the product of a mixed-up grid that we got from qualifying and the race all on one day, I guess, Tony.
It is, because when you have those variables, when you have all those unknowns and, you know, drivers having to guess on their tyres and engineers on their settings, it really does mix things up. It's superb.
We're going to have to guess a little bit about what happened between David Coulthard and Rubens Barrichello. I mean, it ended both their races. Rubens for the first time, I think, in something like 16 or 17 races dating back to the United States last year. And David Coulthard needed a good performance here, didn't he? He was unlucky.
It wasn't just that, Jim. The 130R has claimed so many victims. It's the fastest part of the course. It's a very hairy part of the course to put a manoeuvre on somebody like that. And as David was saying, essentially you don't do it. I didn't do it to Webber earlier on. I hung on, I gave him the space and so on.
Yeah.
But we didn't see it. We saw the aftermath with both of their suspension hanging off. And they have strengthened suspension on Formula One cars because of those sort of tangles to avoid the sort of suspension falling off. But again, as David said, he made an optimistic challenge in China on Ralf Schumacher and put him out of the race. So
it evens itself up a bit.
Yeah.
What did you make of that VAR tactic of Jensen Button pulling over, losing crucial seconds, really, and allowing Takuma Sato to get past? It could well have cost him 2nd place here, then.
Yeah, but Jim, I don't think they had an alternative, because you needed to release Sato, who was on the lighter fuel level going on the 3 stops. And Jensen knew that, and I'm sure he responded, you know, amicably within the cockpit, said, let him go. But unfortunately, he had to slow down those 4 seconds or so to let him through, and that was crucial at the end. But at the time, it was absolutely the right thing to do.
Gave it the full banzai, didn't he, Takuma, and overtook as many as he could. Little Bruni and the Minardi blew him away, but it just ended up short of the podium.
Yeah, but it's another stage in Takuma Sato's development, and you'd have to say that this is his best ever finish here at the Japanese Grand Prix. He's had a 6th, he's had a 5th, and now he's had a 4th place, and he kept his head. He drove brilliantly, and his commitment when lapping Bruni, you know, as you saw, it was just tremendous, and swooped past him. And he'll still be the hero here, even though he wasn't on the podium. I think they'll make a little podium for him down at turn 1, and all the fans will swamp him if he's not careful.
A couple of years ago, Ralf Schumacher said about his elder brother, he is in a class of his own. That was 2002. Not a lot changes.
Well, I mean, the brothers together are superb, but it's the consistency of Michael and the inconsistency of Ralf that you have to question. You know, if you looked in the earlier part of the season, tangling with Sato as an example in Bahrain, and he tangling with Webber in Malaysia. and this is his first podium of the year, despite the big accident at USA. Ralph's an enormously fast driver. He should be delivering that sort of stuff all the time.
But Michael, another peerless performance from the seven-time world champion.
Yeah, absolutely tremendous. And I think, you know, here is significant for him, because in the year 2000 was a big breakthrough for Ferrari. You know, they'd been the bridesmaids for 21 years. 99, they won the Constructors. Then he made the breakthrough. I mean, this is 6 wins for him now in the Japanese Grand Prix. It's brilliant.
And with Panis out of the picture, now Michael Schumacher at 35 is the oldest driver in F1, and I reckon he'll be around for a while, you know.
Yeah, the elder statesman, the veteran, and he'll still be the quickest. You watch out next year.
OK, well, we will be back to complete our coverage of the Japanese Grand Prix. We'll see you shortly.
Ferrari Marlborough. Michael, looked like a copybook race today from the pole. A difficult qualifying session, obviously, earlier today, and then start to finish.
Yeah, we obviously sort of pre-decided the race at qualifying, because it was, for us, pretty clear that we would have a very strong race pace, but qualifying was the doubt, in particular as it was damp condition and we can have problems in these conditions. As we got pole position there, I was pretty confident, if the start was going well, that I could do it. Though, I had Ralph in my mirrors for quite a while, and the gap wasn't increasing as I was sort of expecting, because they seemed to find a very good race pace too. But luckily, he pitted earlier, and then it was sort of clear how the race would go.
There were quite a variety of strategies today, probably because qualifying and racing was on the same day. Was that a concern before the race, wondering what everybody else was up to?
Certainly, yeah. I mean, it wasn't clear who would have been how heavy, because you had no indication from free practice. Therefore, we had to be flat out in the beginning part of the race until pit stops had been done, and then we could sort of judge who was on what strategy.
And a trouble-free, instant-free race, except I think there was a Jordan stationary in the middle of the track, and on one lap you came past.
Yeah, but there was enough space, there was yellow flag indication. I slowed sufficient down to make sure I can handle the situation, and then it was straightforward.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Ralph, congratulations to you too, your first proper podium, shall we say, of the year. Good to see you back here, and a trouble-free race, and not too much traffic around you either, once Michael had got away.
Well, I mean, the start went okay, and I was actually surprised that I was able to follow Michael. Even though we pitted a bit earlier, still it was quite good. Then I had a lot of traffic. I mean, came in back in the middle of a pack, and well, at the back of a pack basically. And I was a bit concerned, but it all worked out at the end. Car worked pretty well. Team did a great job in all the pit stops. So went trouble-free and quick. It was the right strategy for us for the pace we had. So I think it was a good weekend for us.
What was it like following Michael in those early stages? Michael said he was a bit concerned at how you were able to hang on to him. Did you feel that you could match his pace?
Well, in the beginning, sort of. I mean, he was still pulling away, but not, as he said, not as much as he might have expected. So did I expect him to be a lot quicker. But then, you know, I mean, I pitted 4 laps early, so you'd expect some difference in fuel load anyway.
Well done. Jensen, an interesting race for you too. You held off Taku for the first 6 laps. We didn't actually see what happened there. Did you let him pass, or did he squeeze past on the lighter fuel load?
Well, he was probably slowing me down actually, because I was really struggling with rear grip on the first 5 or 6 laps. Big oversteer on pretty much every corner I came to until the graining started. So he came past through the quick left-hander Dunlop. There was no use trying to fight him or anything, because I knew that I was on a different strategy.
As it turned out, your 2-stop beat his 3-stop.
Yeah, well, the strategies were very, very similar in time, race time. But I went for the 2-stop because it worked for me very well at the last race, and I'm used to driving the car when it's pretty heavy, and it worked pretty well. But compared to these two, we were quite a way off in the end.
Where do you think the difference was with Ralph today? Do you think it was in that early stage?
The first stint, definitely. I mean, he pulled out a huge gap in the first stint. Ralph stopped, I think it was 6 laps before me, but even so, the pace was just, the difference was huge.
Well done. Well, Michael, we had a unique day today, qualifying and racing on the same day. Your verdict of how it went?
Yeah, I think that goes down to history that day of Formula One. Pretty sure some people will think whether we should continue to do that way. I have to say it was exciting, but I prefer the old style.
It was exciting. He prefers the old style. We're talking about qualifying and racing all on one day, David. That was Michael Schumacher saying that. What do you feel about that?
I feel like we've done a day's work actually today. It's get up in the morning, do the qualifying, and have a day off yesterday as well. So can't be a bad weekend all in all.
Now it makes for an exciting weekend. It's been a good weekend from your point of view. Are you puffing the cigar and saying that's us in second place now behind Ferrari?
Well, it's a pretty tall order. Renault have got to score a win and a third place to pip us in Brazil. So, but we won't give up till the end now. Maybe we've only got one more race to score that elusive win for us this season.
Sum up your feelings about the likelihood that you will be best of the rest, only Ferrari above you. It's some achievement, David.
It's been a monumental year for everyone. And, it's all too easy for us stood here in the pit lane afterwards with a glass of champagne, but back at base, back at Brackley, there are another 300 people who've been working away solidly all year, and it's those people I really say thank you to, because you've done a great job.
Just talk to us about your tactics during the race. And Takuma Sato going past Jenson Button, our commentators felt that might have cost him second place in the race.
Cost who second?
Jenson.
You've got to remember, Takuma stopped earlier and was running lighter. He was quicker at the beginning of the race there, and was obviously running a little bit quicker. I don't think it did, in actual fact. If you look at the pace Jenson held afterwards, no, I don't think that was the case.
We reckon that's 10 podiums for Jenson Button. I think there might be a result on whether you're going to be keeping him next season or if he's going to be going to Williams in as short a time as within the next week. How confident are you about all that, David?
Let's wait and see. It's one of those subjects I'd rather not talk about till it's all sorted out.
Well, let's talk about your other driver, Takuma Sato, then, shall we, who relished all the attention here as
He's the
normal.
local hero, isn't he? You look around the grandstands, you just look at the flags flying, the cheering and shouting for him. He's a national hero here. And he's done a great job as well. He drove a perfect race, didn't put a foot wrong.
Absolutely, and a full house here at Suzuka appreciated every moment of Takuma Sato, I think.
Yeah, 160,000 people cheering one person. You're right.
Good, okay, David, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And I think you've got a little presentation that Tony's going to do for us here.
Yes, this one. Well, that's actually, look.
There we go.
You can see.
Another one. Third position. Okay, that's another one for the cabinet.
Another one. Another
right.
one. Well done, David.
Thank you very much indeed.
Well done, Dave.
Thanks indeed for joining us. Okay, Tony, just give us your feelings really about what BAR have done here, and it would seem very, very likely, barring a Renault miracle in Brazil, that they will be runners up to Ferrari.
Well, I think there's two things to say. Firstly, it's a milestone because they came into this race last year with just 18 points. They've come into this race this year with 105 points, and they've ended up with 10 podiums so far, so that's amazing. But Jenson Button, one of the things I'm convinced, he started to think mid-season, can we sustain this pace? He felt that McLaren were turning it around. He felt Williams were turning it around. Perhaps he felt that they were closing in on them and we couldn't sustain it. But he's had 4 second places and they've been very, very close to winning, especially in China. Not so much here, but you've put in another perfect team result. 3rd place and 4th place, a hatful of points, Jim.
You can see why the man behind us is so keen to retain Jenson Button's services and why Frank Williams wants him in the Williams next season.
He has matured beyond all doubt, anyone's doubts whatsoever, that everybody is knocking on his door. And as far as his management is concerned, further down the line, he could join Ferrari, he could go where he wants. He's so smooth, he's so fast, he's so calculated. He is now, for me, the complete Grand Prix driver. He's top 3 in the world.
Well, this lot have put a surge on BAR. Renault have faltered, and Jacques Villeneuve, it has to be said, who's brought back in to deliver points. They gave Jarno Trulli the elbow. It hasn't happened.
Well, we said in China afterwards that the strategy that Flavio Briatore put together of bringing in Villeneuve, who was dropped by this team, by BAR,
that's
and
right.
Sato put in his
Replaced
place.
him here
This
last year.
race last year
Absolutely.
would be bitter enough that he'd go on the full attack and he would get some points for Renault. He was in 11th place in China, he's finished in 10th place here, and he has failed to deliver any points. And now, what are they, 16 points behind?
It's done and dusted.
Renault
virtually.
16 points behind going into Brazil. It hasn't worked.
What about Mark Webber, starting right up there on the sharp end of the grid, and he's going to be a bit of a sore chap on the long flight home. Very unfortunate for him, because Jaguar needed something here as well.
I'm smiling. I shouldn't be smiling. But
He won't be smiling.
We had breakfast with him the other morning, and he was telling us about excruciating pain when he was doing the cycling and the
Absolutely
trekking
right.
through Tasmania. And he had these boils on his backside, and he had all sorts of things we don't really want to talk about. And he said he couldn't even sit on his sofa for a week. And this is reminiscence, though, for me, of Nigel Mansell in his first Grand Prix in 1980 in the Lotus. He was burning his backside on fuel, but he persevered and persevered until the engine blew up, but he lost loads of skin off his backside. This guy carries on and carries on. Must have been red hot in there.
Absolutely. Just a couple of points to make about Williams, about the second Williams. Juan Pablo Montoya came out of the wrong end of that overtaking manoeuvre that we saw and never really managed to get back, just scored a couple of points.
I don't think he's done a particularly good job, especially in the second half of the season. And I'm one of his big fans because of his driving style. He's aggressive, you know, he's got tremendous car control, but his mind's been elsewhere in the second half of this season. You know, that manoeuvre that he made, he just let, truly went back through, and it allowed Barrichello to get the jump on all those people. Very entertaining stuff, though. They were three abreast at one point. Villeneuve,
Very
Barrichello.
quickly, Tony, will Ferrari open up for Barrichello to win for the first time in Brazil?
Well, I think Barrichello will be on fire anyway, and I think Michael Schumacher's going to have a hard job beating Rubens on home turf.
Okay, Tony, thank you very much indeed. There will be a rerun this Sunday afternoon, ITV1 2:15, highlights coming up at 11:45. Brazil is next then. Our qualifying live on ITV2 at 4:30 on the Saturday, ITV1 at 11:15 on that Saturday night. The race live from 5:20 on the Sunday evening, the Brazilian Grand Prix, highlights around midnight. Here, Michael Schumacher said sayonara, cheerio to the rest. Bye-bye.
If you'd like to know more about Formula One,